I'm a fan of music, like all types of genres, almost as much as I'm a fan of music, like movies and cinema. And I became a fan of K-pop back in like the early 2000s. But this BTS comeback is, I think, is something different, something implying something major, and it's because of the title of the album, Arirang. Because if you know anything about the history of uh, pop music and artist development systems, that title might be pointing to something bigger. It made me wonder if BTS might be trying to push the K-pop idol system in, into its next phase. And I don't know. But I'm curious if BTS fans think about this too, because boy bands typically follow a predictable life cycle. Like they rise fast, they dominate for a few years, and then they break up or everyone goes solo. This happens in pop culture or pop music over and over and over. What happens when a group gets powerful enough to break this pattern? And to understand why that might matter, we have to zoom out a second. If you trace that story back far enough, you'll end up in Detroit. In the 1960s, Berry Gordy built something revolutionary with Motown Records. At Motown, artists didn't just record songs, they were trained in singing, choreography, stage presence, and media etiquette. Everything was refined before the artists were introduced to the world. Motown uh, wasn't just producing music, they were developing global performers. And artists like Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson came from that system. And if you've been a K-pop fan, this part might sound familiar because one of the things uh, I found fascinating about K-pop is how much the idol system reminded me of the Motown approach. Years of training, performance discipline, and artists being prepared for a global stage. And once I made that connection, it made the whole history of boy bands start to look a little different. The 1960s were full of a bunch of different youth pop groups, reshaping like youth culture in general, like groups like the Temptations or even like the Monkees. But when you look closer at that era, there's like two groups in particular end up shaping the blueprint that later boy bands would build upon. The first was the Beatles. A group of friends from Liverpool proved that a band from outside the US could become extremely popular in the US. And that changed pop forever. But around the same time, a group of brothers from Gary, Indiana had been performing for years together. They were a hardworking band before the industry even discovered them. That group became the Jackson 5. When they signed with Motown and released I Want You Back in 1969, it changed everything. The Jackson combined two forces. The raw energy of youth like group culture and the precision of Motown artist development system. And not long after that, Puerto Rico's Menudo proved the same formula could work in a completely different culture. But the story doesn't stop there. One of the groups that always stands out to me in this lineage is New Edition. It's because I grew up watching them be great. Now I realize that they're basically sitting right in the middle of boy band history. New Edition didn't start as a carefully engineered industrial project. They were kids from Boston who came together for a talent show. According to Bobby Brown, the group was formed after a judge encouraged him to come back with a group. So he did. They won the talent show. And that moment eventually connected them to producer Maurice Starr. And Maurice Starr saw the potential to build a modern version of the Jackson 5. New Edition mixed choreography, pop songs, R&B, and hip hop energy, and their influence spread everywhere. And then Maurice later used that blueprint based on them to create the boy band New Kids on the Block, which means they're a huge part of the modern boy band formula that traces back through this lineage. Motown, Jackson 5, and New Edition, and basically the modern boy band formula. By the time K-pop emerged, the system's already evolved several times. In the 1990s and early 2000s, South Korea entertainment companies built what we now call the K-pop idol system. It became one of the most advanced artist development systems in the world. But one thing that was different: the internet. Platforms like YouTube and social media allow K-pop to spread across the globe in ways earlier generations of pop music could never. Fans everywhere could discover new artists instantly, and it also allowed K-pop artists to directly connect to their fans. And eventually, one group broke through at a scale no one expected. BTS is not just another successful K-pop group. They are a global cultural force. And I think one of the reasons why BTS became unusually successful inside the idol system is because their members weren't just performers. They were shaping the identities of the group. They were writing music, sharing personal stories, uh, building narratives with fans that they can follow. At one point, the BTS literally became stockholders in the entertainment company that trained them. That's like super unusual for a Korean entertainment company. And they weren't regular like idol employees, if that makes any sense. Um, but that raised a question for me, like, uh, what happens when an artist inside a system becomes powerful enough to start reshaping it? Which brings me back to the detail that started this whole train of thought for me. The album title, Arirang. Arirang isn't just a folk song from South Korea. It's one of the most important folk songs in Korean history. And the fact that many of us are pronouncing the title wrong is probably a good thing, because I've seen this pattern in global music before. And if BTS really is leaning deeper into something culturally Korean with this comeback, then something very interesting might be happening. You see, artists like Bad Bunny didn't become global by watering down where they came from. They leaned further into Spanish and Puerto Rican culture. Kendrick Lamar didn't become global by sounding less like someone from Compton. He leaned deeper into the identity and storytelling of where he came from, and the world followed. Typically, groups coming out of the Korean idol system are trained to believe their songs need to have a certain amount of English lyrics to go global, or they need to be part of what's trending in cultures outside of uh, Korea to become more global. So if BTS is going with Arirang for their title of their new album, this comeback might be testing something much bigger than just a new album. And if that's really what's happening here, then we might actually be watching the idol system change in real time. So what might that actually look like? Here's a few possibilities. Prediction one, streaming infrastructure. Uh, for most of the decade, K-pop's rise has been powered by platforms like YouTube and like social media platforms. But the partner with Netflix suggests something slightly different is happening. Infrastructure for one. Then you have like concert films, documentaries, and other probably long forms of storytelling that's able to reach global audience in a whole different way. Um, if that model works, BTS could help basically push like K-pop into like a new phase where artists are not just building through music releases, but they're like global ecosystems now, which again, that's already been there. It's like evolving. Prediction two, longevity. One of the biggest challenges for boy bands has always been time. Members grow old, dating, creative ambitions change, solo careers begin. Eventually, groups break apart, but some music collectives have survived differently. Groups like the Wu-Tang Clans build careers where members pursue solo careers while still returning for the group's shared identity. If BTS follows a path like that, maybe the future of boy bands might not be about staying together forever, but about maybe evolving into a long term collective like the Wu-Tang Clan. And the third possibility might be the biggest, redefining Korean identity globally. Because the artist who travels the furthest across the world often are the ones who stay closest to where they're from. If BTS is leaning deeper into Korean culture identity with this comeback, that could reshape how the world sees Korea. And honestly, I'm curious what you think. Do you see the same pattern I see here? Or am I reading too much into it? Either way, this comeback might end up being one of the biggest and most interesting experiments in modern pop culture.